Hello, 361 community. I'm LorenTaylor, co-founder and CEO of awokenet.com. We are a website with content about social justice organizations and the work that they do, which would probably lead some to wonder why and how I commit time and energy to being part of the 361 space. Well, my response is that economic justice, economic opportunity, economic development, and the possibilities for all of that. That's a part that's comprised of social justice. That's a component of social justice. Best or worst decisions I made in 2021, and I will say it is getting involved with 361. It's enhances existing relationships and created what I hope will be some very valuable, sustainable, long-lasting new ones. What is the one word, or what one word would you use to describe or talk about what you expect for 2022? And the word I chose is pivotal. Pivotal. Really, what is going to transpire in this next, let's say, 3 to 5 years is really going to set the course for what we can expect for the next 30 or maybe even 50 years. Okay, it's an inflection point, no less impactful than, let's say, women's suffrage and America having to confront whether women were just going to be vessels for the family. This idea of the humanity of work, which brought us the 8-hour workday and the idea that maybe, kids shouldn't work in factories. Let's call it what it is, ongoing reckoning with not just race, but this idea of whether equality under the law also translates into some stake or voice in the society. Even different movements that showed us that youth could be about more than just partying and getting laid, right? What I would say, it comes down to this idea of what type of society, really, what type of society are we going to base our lives around? Not just depend on, but to construct and participate in. And of course, nothing is 100% concrete, particularly binary, but if you had to dissect it, it really comes down to this idea of whether we have a society that's based on connections between people, connections between people and the institutions that they relate to, depend, and are part of their lives, connections between the institutions themselves, right? Whether there is something like value placed on consensus, given that in what we would like to refer to as free society, in the end, every person is a faction of one. So is there within that possible to have something that even comes akin to a shared vision or sense of shared responsibility? So that would be one track. The other places this idea of the individual, and not just that you could say the needs or the, so to speak, wants of the individual, but rather even the prerogative of the individual, and places that above really all else. And of course, if you subscribe to that, then you also have to grant this to companies and corporations and those type of interests, because now we have, in essence, at least here through Citizens United, actually reached that as a point of point of law and practice. For me, okay, 2022, well, hey, look, 2020 and 2021 has, for me, seemed as if it was one long day, one long ongoing day. What I need to do in and for my own life and how that is going to apply to what's going on around me, both now and in the future. And I guess I have, you could say, three or so different components of that. Right now, even first and foremost for me is the non-hate meditation. And by its nature, that also entails this idea of some self-examination. The second really is this idea of looking for and maintaining the sense of joy, both in what I do and how I observe what is going on with other folks. Last but not least, as I say, since we are at what I call this inflection point, being cognizant and mindful that what we do, that what I do within this next 1, 2, 3 or so years will have, and we're going to find another word for this in 2022, it will have an impact on, or let's say a good likelihood to have an impact on what will go on with us in our societies for the next 30, even 50 years. Okay, let's see what happens.